In today's show, the Blazers are undefeated in March. Will they ever lose again? Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen and tell your friends to do the same. In today's show, we're talking 2 games in Memphis. The Blazers are undefeated in March after a winless February, one of 2 teams in the NBA to not win a single game in the slightly abbreviated February month, thanks to the All-Star break. The Blazers come back in March, and they cannot lose. You can't lose. Undefeated. Take that. They go into Memphis and win both games of back-to-back Friday and Saturday night at the FedEx Forum at the end of Beale Street in beautiful downtown Memphis. Undefeated. We'll talk about both those games. Friday night was a beatdown. Blazers dominated, but Saturday night was one of the funniest NBA games you will ever watch. Truly goofy nonsense that the Blazers come back and steal from with a big old fourth quarter rally. We will talk about that one. Jabari Walker had himself a weekend. He was really good in both of these games. And Dalano Banton, after the best game he's played as a Blazer on Friday night, came back and helped seal a win in overtime. We'll talk about 2 role players stepping up for a team that is just down to having their role players needing to step up. Two depleted teams matching up in Memphis. Let's do what we do, though. We're going to fastest recap in the West for both games before we talk about Jabari and Delano a little bit and everybody who performed in this game. Friday night in Memphis, Blazers kick off a little mini 3-gamer with 2 games on Beale Street. And they're down 4 after 1, 17-21. But they come back with a big second quarter and take a 6-point lead into the break, 51-45 at halftime. And then they came out and just blew the game open in the third quarter. Game ends in the third quarter. Blazers outscored the Grizzlies 40-27 to take a 6-point lead to a 19-point lead. And here's the trick. Here's you talk about halftime adjustments and great coaching and what it takes is, here's the trick. The Blazers, their plan in the third quarter of that Friday night game against Memphis, make all your shots. It's the best coaching always. Shout out to my man Roy Williams, who said that the best coaching you can do is have the ball go in. Blazers shoot 79%, 15 of 19 from the floor, 5 of 7 from 3 in the third quarter. Duop had 12 in the third. It's Duop Reith, Blazers starting center. Delano Banton had 7 in that quarter. Chris Murray had 9. You get that type of production, 28 points from those 3 dudes. Those 3 guys outscore the Memphis Grizzlies. Yeah, you're gonna have some sustained success if you do that. Never closer than 19 in the fourth quarter. The Blazers go on to cruise to a 30-point win, 122-92. That's your fastest recap in the West from Friday night. In the second half, the Blazers shot 63% from the floor and including 9 of 14 from 3, and outscored Memphis 71-47. 71 points. 71 points in the final 2 quarters, 105 in the final 3 quarters. If you really want to get into it, they scored 17 in the opening quarter. It's like, oh, this team's a freaking mess. It really was like, oh no, are they really going to have one of these games where they score 71 against the shorthanded Grizzlies? But a dominant 105 points in the final 3 quarters, and they cruise. Biggest win under Chauncey Billups. Blazers' biggest win by margin of victory since for almost 3 full years. You have to go back to May of 2021. This is the last time they beat a team by 30. They have not blown out teams in the Chauncey Billups era. In part, bad coaching and bad results. In part, terrible rosters that have lost a bunch of games. That perfect storm means this is their biggest win of the Billups era, and it's like a truly dominant game. Real quick in the box score, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but you just get big nights. Jabari Walker 19 and 10 off the bench. Delano Banton 19 and 7 off the bench. 18 from Duop Reith. I say 12 in that third quarter. He was a game changer. Chris Murray 14, his best career high 14, and that covered up for Jeremy Grant and Anthony Simons combining to score 17 points on 7 of 19 shooting. They dominated a game in which their 2 best offensive players remaining didn't have to have dominant games. And they win this game with without DeAndre Ayton, who missed both games in Memphis with his hand injury. He's wearing a splint on his hand. We'll see when he's available to come back. Alyssa is doubtful in both these games, but just did not play. The Grizzlies are also this is the pretty depleted Trailblazers versus the very depleted Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies starting lineup on Friday night: Jordan Goodwin, Zaire Williams, Trey Jemison, Santi Aldama, and Vince Williams Jr. They don't have Jaren Jackson Jr. They're already without Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, and Marcus Smart. We're out, Brandon Clark, Steven Adams, who they've since traded, their core of a team that's won 55 games or whatever it is, back-to-back years, 50-plus games, back-to-back years. They've been out for a long time, and you're missing Triple J in this one, and the Blazers just dominate them. But they got to play again. These games are never easy to play again. Memphis was favored. They were 2.5-point favorites when the game started, according to FanDuel. And it's just hard to win twice on the road. The Blazers are extremely depleted. They're just it's safe bet you're probably not going to get a career high night again from Chris Murray and 19 off the bench for Banton. The Vegas odds makers know this type of thing. The good people at FanDuel know this type of thing. So the Blazers are, not favorites coming out. And in game 2, Saturday night, here's your fastest recap in the West. The first game was great. This one was objectively hilarious. Blazers up 5 after 1, but Grizzlies turn around. They take a 4-point lead into the break. And then the Grizzlies, they're the team that has, that basically mirror of game 1. The team that's trailing after the end of the first quarter takes the lead in the second quarter and then dominates the third to seemingly blow the game open. Grizz outscored the Blazers 27-14 in the third quarter. Blazers shot 5 of 19 from the field and had 6 turnovers. You have more turnovers than made field goals, you're probably in trouble, and the Blazers are down 17 after 3. They're down 14 with 7.5 minutes left. They're down 7. Blazers down 7 with under 2 minutes, a minute 52. Anthony Simons hits a couple free throws. And then join me here. The final minute of regulation is so goofy you can't even imagine. So Grizzlies get the ball back. They're up 5 with a minute. They kind of just need to run some clock and get a shot off. If they score, the game is probably over. But as Vince Williams comes across the floor, Toumani Camara knocks the ball out of bounds off his leg, tries to knock it off his leg, but just knocks it out of bounds. Excuse me. Grizzlies get it back, and on the ensuing inbounds play, Toumani Camara gets up in Vince Williams' grill, gets up in his face, and kind of just sits down in his stance. And Vince Williams, to get a little bit of space, throws his elbow into Camara. Camara gets hit right in the chin. I thought he flopped, and then on the replay, it's he got whacked. They call it a flagrant foul. The Blazers get the ball back. Toumani Camara splits the free throws, and all of a sudden, it's a 4-point game. On the ensuing inbounds pass, so we've had ball knocked out of bounds, flagrant foul, split free throws. Now we get an inbounds play. Jabari Walker catches it. He's standing out of bounds. Grizzlies get the ball back. They throw it in. They fumble it out of bounds. So now we've had ball knocked out of bounds, flagrant foul, split 2 free throws, standing out of bounds, drop the ball out of bounds. Okay, this is going to be a good one. It's a 4-point game. So Grizzlies miss. They kind of run clock and run a little bit clock and miss. The Blazers get the ball back after the second Grizzlies turnover. I'm getting ahead of myself. So Blazers turn it over, Grizzlies turn it over, Blazers get the ball back. Third try on this one. Blazers missed 2 threes with the clock under a minute, down 4. But on the second offensive rebound that they get, Jabari Walker gets a quick putback. It's now a 2-point game with 45 seconds left. This is winnable. Blazers just have to play defense. The Grizzlies haven't scored in 5,000 years. It's at this point, 2 minutes, but they haven't been able to get the ball inbounds or across half court. They're struggling here in the final 2 minutes of crunch time. And so Memphis just says, okay, we're going to run down clock. We're going to try to make one jumper and we're going to win this game because they're going to need 2 buckets in the final 15 seconds. So we're going to win. They do run down clock. They get a terribly difficult 3 from Jordan Goodwin. It comes off. Blazers don't call timeout. If you're a longtime listener to the program, I'm in favor of if you get a rebound and you're going, especially when you've struggled to score in the half court, just go. The Blazers just go. Ashton Higgins gets himself, they try to get the ball to Anthony Simons. They've been really, really top blocking Simons, and he's, until the fourth quarter, was kind of awful. But they can't get it to him, so Ashton Higgins just has to go. He finds Jabari Walker under the rim. They foul him. He hits 2 free throws to tie the game with 1.3 seconds left, 95 all. But the Grizzlies and Blazers still both have timeouts left, so we might not be done in this one. Grizzlies, they run a play try to throw a lob pass to G.G. Jackson. Chris Murray may have grabbed him. Ball sails out of bounds on a potential foul, but nobody touches it. Blazers get the ball back. They try to throw a lob pass. The Grizzlies commit a foul on on Toumani Camara going to the rim. The ball goes out of ball bounces out of bounds, and we're in OT. So to finish overtime, to head to overtime, we have back-to-back air ball alley-oop attempts. Just nobody touches it type of alley-oop attempts. Pretty incredibly hilarious game. Both teams' alley-oop turnovers to end OT is just a beautiful way for 95-95 heading into overtime in 2024. First 2 minutes of overtime, as you may have guessed, are scoreless. They're scoreless in OT. Finally, the Blazers they take a timeout they make a substitution while Luke Kennard is shooting free throws and put Dalano Banton into the game for Ashton Higgins, and that totally changes the complexion of the final 3 minutes. Banton drives and gets a layup. Banton drives and gets fouled. He gets a good move and kind of gets past the Memphis defense, and they have to just like try to grab his wrist as he's going up because he's going to get another layup. That puts the Blazers up 4. The Blazers get up 6 on a Jabari Walker layup on a nice little pick and roll play with him and Anthony Simons. Then Vince Williams hits a 3. This is the Grizzlies have first bucket in 6 game minutes for the Grizzlies. Vince Williams hits a 3 to cut the lead to 3. The Grizzlies don't score for 6 straight minutes, basically the final 2 minutes of regulation and the first 4 minutes of OT. And it's like, and yet one stop away from having a chance to force double overtime. But the Blazers, they again put the ball in Banton's hands because they're denying Anthony Simons, and they've kind of they have done a good job of sending 2 to Ant, and they go ahead and send 2 to him, and Banton kind of gets it, drives. He tries to leave it off to Jabari Walker. Jabari Walker gets his first shot blocked. He grabs it at the free throw line, shoots a fadeaway that barely kisses the front rim, but just does. And Delano Banton's there for the rebound put back, and the Blazers go up by 4 with 11 seconds left, and they hold on to win in one of the silliest games you'll ever watch. Truly one of the silliest games you'll ever watch. 107-100. Delano Banton dunked the ball in at the... He dunked the ball in as time expired, but nobody fought about it, and the Blazers win 107-100. Heck of a comeback win. Down by 17 entering the third quarter, down by as many as 18 in that entering the fourth quarter, down by as many as 18 in the third quarter. You come back and win that game with the late charge, outscoring the Grizzlies by 7 to close regulation. It was ugly, it was stupid, but it was fun. Anthony Simons was awful to begin this game, 4 of 13 and 12 points through the first 3 quarters, and just like not good. Turning the ball over, couldn't handle Memphis's physical pressure defense. Fourth quarter, comes alive, saves the team. 5 of 7 in the fourth quarter, 16 points. Finally got going. I thought they handled the top blocking, which is like preventing Anthony Simons coming to the top, staying on his high side and forcing him towards the baseline. I thought they handled it a little better in the fourth quarter. I thought Ant handled it a little better in the fourth quarter. And then he made 2 really tough shots. And sometimes you got to get yourself going. He finished with 30 points. He had 2 in overtime after 12 through 3 quarters. Helped bring him home. But Jabari Walker and Delano Banton were the stories of the weekend for me. Let's talk about both of those gentlemen in the second segment. Well, first we'll talk about Jabari Walker because he was really, really good in this game, and he had an interesting post-game interview on Saturday after back-to-back double-doubles in Memphis. That's what we'll do in the second segment. First, let me tell you about FanDuel. Go get buckets right now with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, if you are a new customer, you can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. The Blazers are famously undefeated in March. They have not lost in the month of March, and I just can't see them ever losing again. I'm going to tell you right now, 40-42 is still on the table. 23-0 to finish the season. Very, very likely. Actually, this is not betting advice. Please don't listen to me. But if you do have confidence in any bet out there, you make any winning $5 bet on FanDuel right now, you can get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. And then you can bet on all of your favorite NBA games and NBA players with quick bets that they have right there in the app. They got live same-game parlays. They got exclusive props that are only available on the FanDuel app. Plus, you can build whatever you want with multi-sport parlays. You can live bet games however you see fit and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right. So this weekend, Friday's game was like a dominant showing. The Blazers just haven't dominated a team in a while. Not friend of the program, Bomani Jones. he's probably unaware of the program, but Monty Jones famously would say that beat them down, like that blowouts are more fun because like who needs stress in their lives, right? And I think that's right. Like I think Friday's game was like, heck yeah, look what this team could be when Chris Murray makes shots. Then he doesn't make shots again on Saturday, which has mostly been his career so far. Good defensive player who can't hit any open shots, and the Blazers kind of struggle, and you get, but like, on Friday night you had a really nice game from Duop-Reath, you had a really nice game from Dalano Banton, you had a really nice game from Jabari Walker, you had Chris Murray making shots, and you just dominated a team. Coming into this weekend, the Blazers over the last 2 weeks of the season were the 29th rated offense in the league. The only offense worse than them over the last 2 weeks was the Memphis Grizzlies. You knew these games were going to be ugly, right? Memphis did not score a 96 point in regulation in either of the games. They've been averaging under 100 for a stretch here. Like they don't have enough offensive players. They're incredibly beat up. Blazers incredibly beat up. And I didn't even mention this, but in the second game, Jeremy Grant starts the game and then doesn't play. He doesn't come out in the third quarter. He has what they're calling right quad soreness. I don't know what that means. Usually they call that a contusion, but maybe there wasn't. It meant that his leg had been bothering him prior to this, and it just like he couldn't keep rolling with it, as opposed to contusion, which is like he got hit in the quad. Unclear. They don't really provide details on injuries like that, so who knows? But so the Blazers don't even have Jeremy Grant in the second half of Saturday's game, so they're probably now equally beat up. Maybe a little bit less because they still have Anthony Simons, but like these teams, it's just like two shorthanded teams, and I think Friday's game is like legitimately fun, and then Saturday's game is legitimately funny, but the Blazers win, so it's like, hey, why not? And why not enjoy it? But they don't win these games without Jabari Walker. He was like just legitimately good. On Friday night, he comes off the bench and has 19 points, 7 boards, and 3 assists. He played 22 minutes. He was 7 of 9 from the floor, made his only 3-point attempts. He's super active. He's playing almost exclusively backup center because of the Blazers situation. He played a little bit with Moses Brown in that first half, but Moses didn't really play. Moses only played 9 minutes, so his second shift wasn't super duper long. His first shift wasn't super duper long. And he played a little more in the third quarter. And Duop-Reath is playing 23 minutes. But Jabari's playing a bunch of backup center. Like he's playing a bunch of just like true center minutes. And I think over the weekend, so that he has that really really solid game on Friday evening. 19 10 and 3 is like 19 10 and 2 is like just a good basketball game. Like you don't need to slice it any other way. And then he comes back again, coming off the bench again. He playing bigger minutes because of Jabari Walker or because Jeremy Grant gets hurt. 18 and 12, 8 of 16 from the floor, misses only 3. He takes 31 field goals over the weekend. 2 of them are 3-pointers. And I mention that because pretty much the knock on every single Blazers young developmental part is if they could shoot. Blah, 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 if they could shoot. Chris Murray, pretty good defensive player, if he could shoot. Delano Banton, pretty good slasher, more on him later, if he could shoot. Jabari Walker, great rebounder, really competitive, great hustle player, if he could shoot. Like it's Matisse Thybulle, incredibly disruptive defender, if he could shoot. Tamati Kamara, great one-on-one, great point of attack defender, such a great energy guy, if he could shoot. They probably lead the league in intriguing players that fit that last caveat. But Jabari Walker, I think some of his struggles on offense recently have been passing up shots. He's like, I'm not going to shoot. I've been shooting bricks. Like I'm shooting 25% from 3 over the last month. I'm not going to shoot this. Passing up shots in the modern NBA is bad. Like it breaks the offense a little bit. So playing 5, he just doesn't have to space as much. Like he's just a roller. I think Jabari Walker as a screener and a decision maker when they double the ball with Anthony Simons as a 4-on-3 decision maker, he's not like this elite high-level passer, but he definitely understands how to pass. He can read defenses. I think he reads it better than he makes the physical pass. Like he sees it and then he processes it and then he throws it and they're not always really on time. But you can see him. He's a cerebral player. You can see him he gets how to play, and I think he's a the Blazers don't have a ton of good decision makers in 4-on-3, and Jabari Walker is as good as they have. But just like a guy who can, if Jabari's task is be big, mix it up, and you don't have to go against plus size. And the Grizzlies don't have a ton of plus size with this team. They tried going a little bit bigger on Friday with Trey Jemison, but he didn't play on Saturday. And so then, it's Lamar Stevens and Santi Aldama up front. They're just not that big. They don't have big guys that can bring off the bench like Jake LaRavia and Matt Hurt. Matt Hurt is like, he weighs like 185 pounds. Jake LaRavia is like a 3-4 hybrid, playing a little bit bigger. Gigi Jackson's big, but he's like a guard skill set type, but he's like big. This just is not a team with plus size. And I think when Jabari has struggled in games recently, it's because, he's not a shooter. So he's going to do his damage on the inside, and he's going to do his damage on hustle plays, and he's going to do his damage as a rebounder. But it's hard for him to just like he is the size that he is. He is like 6'8", and he's a really good rebounder for 6'8", but he's also 6'8". And then in this matchup against this team, he was able to do all of the things he does. And then he has this great post-game interview with Brooke Olzendam of Blazers broadcasting. I'm reminded again, when the Blazers didn't want to send their broadcasters on the road, then you don't get this fun stuff. You don't get a really interesting interview with your players. Think about it. It helps the fans enjoy the games. But Jabari tells Brooke Olzendam after the game is like that when they were down 18, coming out of a timeout, Malcolm Brogdon was like, if you play smart and don't turn the ball over, you can win. Like, just play hard, play smart, and you can win. And Jabari said, like, that gave him the confidence, and that he said, we don't win this game without Malcolm Brogdon. He talked about some sort of veteran help. I mean, like, the game's so gross down the stretch. They easily could have lost. But, like, yeah, I think the soft stuff of leadership matters. And then you kind of got to get a little bit lucky with a couple, both teams stepping out of bounds on inbounds plays, both teams airballing alley-oops to end the game. Like it's a little bit relative, but I think you can see the value of why the Blazers want Malcolm Brogdon around, or have wanted Malcolm Brogdon around, and Jabari Walker specifically cites him. And then the thing that I think really struck me was not the sort of like assigning Memphis's lack of offense to Malcolm Brogdon's leadership. But Jabari Walker said he plays his best when he smiles. And I love that idea, is that the easiest way to play your best basketball is when you're enjoying it. Jabari Walker gets mad, right? He got into a little kerfuffle with Vince Williams and grabbed him around the neck and got a flagrant foul out of it. And Williams was assessed a technical foul on the play. And like Jabari Walker gets into it, he claps in people's faces, he's physical, he yells and all that stuff. But he says he plays his best basketball when he smiles. On Friday night, he was smiling because they were dominating. In the fourth quarter and overtime when they were winning, he was cracking a smile. The ability to enjoy it while at work is the thing that fuels him. And I think there is something truly, inspiring, but truly heartwarming about a young guy saying like, hey, the basketball is fun. And when I remember and can play with that joy, I'm my best self. Steps to the free throw line with a second left, down 2, and aces 2 free throws to send it to overtime. He said it was a moment that he dreams about as a kid, lying awake in your bed at nights. Game on the line, and you get a chance to send it to OT. This was a big weekend for him. Was this like proof of concept? No, this was a game against a really shorthanded team, but they were fun basketball games, and Jabari Walker winning and playing winning basketball, winning moments, and having fun basketball games. That's what you want at this time of year. Hold on to your joy. Jabari Walker is a poster child for it. He says when he holds on to his joy and plays with joy, he plays his best basketball. How about that? It's pretty fun. I love it. You know who else was really good this weekend? Delano Banton, a monster game on Friday night, and then the game-sealing putback on Saturday. Let's talk about Delano and another guy that, if he could shoot, often comes up. That's what we'll do to close the show, but first I want to tell you about PrizePicks. It's daily fantasy made easy. It is the number one fantasy sports app with over 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. You pick more than or less than on a 2 to 6 player entry against the stat projections that PrizePicks sets. And then you watch your money roll in. And right now it's demon time on PrizePicks. You can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. Turning on $10 into $1,000. Demons and Goblins, the newest and most exciting way to play on PrizePicks. Squares that are marked with red demons or with green goblins get you different payouts, so you can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. So go to prizepicks.com/lockedon and use the promo code LOCKEDON for a first deposit match up to $100. That means they're going to match you dollar for dollar on your first deposit, but you got to go to prizepicks.com/lockedonnba and use the promo code LOCKEDONNBA. That's prizepicks.com/lockedonnba, and promo code is LOCKEDONNBA. PrizePicks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. Jabari Walker playing in the right position. He's probably better as like a screening small ball 5, although I think your defense and your rebounding suffers with it. The big question for him is, can he shoot? I think in situations where he doesn't have to shoot, like the games against Memphis, where he takes 29 field goal attempts that are 2s, that's the best version of him. And so much of kind of figuring out your spot and your future in the NBA is like, what do you do and what can you do, and how can you then maximize what you do and what you're able to do, and can you play next to coworkers that complement your skills? Delano Banton is a perfect example of that. He's like a 6'8" skinny point guard. He's like a guard. I don't know if he's a point guard because his handle isn't super tight, and he's more slasher than passer, but he had a really nice pass on Friday night. He had a great game on Friday. Capital G. Like he was awesome in Friday's dominant win. He comes off the bench, 19 points, 7 boards, 3 assists, gets a steal, blocks a couple shots. He's plus 26 in 20 minutes. 19 points in 20 minutes, 19 and 7 boards in 20 minutes. Like he was everywhere. Here's the thing. Remember that caveat from the second segment? If he could shoot. Delano Banton is just the classic if he could shoot. And on Friday night, he could shoot, baby. He hit 3 of 5 threes, but 2 of those 3-pointers were off the dribble. A pull-up and a step back. And here's the thing about Delano Banton. I like him a lot. If you're an everydayer, you know that I'm kind of like, I'm a fan of his game. I like his weird, funky game. I like weird players, and Delano Banton is a strange player, and I'm just a legitimate fan of his game. But if he makes threes, he completely changes the calculation. He can get to where he wants to off the dribble. He's a good slasher. He can get to the paint. He's not an elite level finisher, but he's a decent enough passer off the move. Not great, but a decent enough passer off the move. He can get to the rim with his length. He's an okay finisher around the rim. Like he has that, and he can play in transition, and he can rebound and run. And I think that's a big part of his success in this game is like, I'm 6'8", I can go grab a board, and then I can just push. And you can actually play in transition or semi-transition where you run, then they match up. You have natural mismatches. Okay, now you run your stuff, or now you match up hunt because they're out of position, or they had to sprint back and guard, and they're guarding the wrong spots. And Banton allows them to do that in a way that they just don't have enough players with enough ball handling and passing chops that they can grab it off the rim and run. Usually, DeAndre Ayton grabs a defensive rebound off the rim, turns, finds a point guard, and they jog up the court. That's why they play incredibly slow. They just don't have enough dudes who can run, and I don't think they emphasize it, and I don't think Anthony Simons is comfortable with it. I don't think Jeremy Grant plays his best at full speed. He plays his best at jab, fade away. So like Banton changes the calculation a little bit. But the calculation for him changes even another level if he can shoot. Here's the thing. He's never been a shooter at any level of basketball he played. I remember when he signed with the team, I said he couldn't shoot in college, in his two stops in college, Nebraska and Western Kentucky, and he hasn't been able to shoot in the NBA. And I said, I'm not going to look it up, but I bet he didn't shoot well in the G League either. He didn't. He didn't. He's never at any level been a guy who shoots from the outside. He's a slasher. He's like, some dudes aren't going to be able to shoot. So you watch that Friday night game and you say to yourself, and I said the same thing watching it, like, whew, if Delano Banton could do that, he's a different type of player. But he probably can't. So I think for younger guys, Chris Murray, who's really struggled to shoot, Tamani Kamara, who's in year 1 in the league, Jabari Walker, who's, a guy who, he's young, and in year 2, 1.5 in the league, 1 3/4, I guess, in the league. Like, there's hope that those guys can kind of grow into it. Delano Banton is in his 3rd season in the league. He's on his 4th stop. It's not like he's been able to shoot in other spots. He's played in the G League and hasn't been able to shoot. He was a non-shooter in college. He's a slasher. But he's an interesting player because you get him into the overtime, and his slashing was more valuable than his shooting. To wit, I thought Ashton Higgins played okay on Saturday. he's just not, they don't guard him on offense. They go way under on screens. He made 2 threes. One was like unguarded catch and shoot. One was his man was all the way over on the paint, and when he was on the wing and they kicked it to him, and it's like a late closeout and he got a 3. But like, they don't guard him. They go way under. Even in the pass he made to Jabari Walker to force overtime, they're trying to get the ball back to Ant. They can't because of the top blocking, really aggressive defense, and the Blazers just like aren't creative enough on offense to make the most of it. That's a complaint for another day. But like, Ashton gets a step inside the foul line, gets to like 8 feet, and he has to pass it because he's not looking at the rim, and it works, and they get fouled, and they make 2 free throws, and it's a nice play. But like, if you're not gonna look at the rim, a step inside the, step and a half inside the foul line, it's like, his buckets were at the rim and unguarded threes. I thought he played fine. He's a really competitive defensive player. He's just not a good offense. He's not an NBA level offensive player right now. And the offense they had to get him out of there because the offense was stalling, and they needed a little more dynamic play because of the way that Memphis was guarding and denying Anthony Simons. And Chauncey Billups did something that you don't see coaches do very often. He should get credit for it. If you're a long-time listener, you've heard me say this before. NBA coaches don't really sub in overtime. It's pretty uncommon that they sub. Chauncey Billups, 2 minutes OT, scoreless from his team, says, "Hey, Ashton, get out of there. Delano, we need you." And Dalano Banton immediately drives to the rim and gets a bucket, drives to the rim, and gets fouled. Then they were able to get the ball to Anthony Simons and just like run a straight up pick and roll, because now they're a little bit worried about the sort of dynamic of the other guard. And then late in the game on the putback he again drives himself into the paint, finds Jabari Walker. Walker gets blocked and then misses a jumper. Like, neither of them were particularly good shots, but Delano Banton's ability to get into the paint matters. I don't think he's like a high level NBA player. I think he is going to be a fringe backup-y third point guard type. But I think undeniably the Blazers just took a flyer on him. They basically traded a fake second round pick, and he has shown that he has enough interesting stuff to stick around. The shooting might never come around, but like, if on a team that needs more guys who can dribble, more guys who can make plays off the bounce, both for themselves, and that's mostly what Banton does, and for others. He had a great pass to Jabari on Friday night. Just awesome drive and a little leave when the defense came. Like, that dynamic makes me think that he could be a backup point guard of the future. I wouldn't put all your eggs in saying, yeah, he's fine. Like, he's trade Anthony Simons because you have Delano Banton. I am certainly not advocating for that just yet. But like, when you're at this time of year, when you take a flyer on someone like Banton, you're hoping that they can show you enough to be like, that's intriguing. That could be a player we invest in the future, because in specific nights, you need that type of thing. This specific night in Memphis, you needed that type of thing, and he absolutely delivered after a monster game on Friday night. It's pretty fun. This time of year, you're looking for fun. I think they'll probably lose in March. Famously undefeated in March. It probably comes back to them a little bit. I don't think they beat any other team in the NBA on Friday night other than Memphis. I really don't. I don't think any other team in the NBA the Blazers come back and win that game against. But like, you don't have to give it back. Instead, I would say the opposite. Enjoy the hell out of this one. This was as fun as it gets. What a funny, goofy, stupid game that ends with Jabari Walker telling you that when he smiles, he plays his best basketball. So I'll say this: go out and smile. Hold on to your joy. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. These games were a ton of fun. Guess what? We do this each and every weekday. That means we're coming at you with more shows here in the future. You were listening to Monday, March 4th show, and on Monday evening, the Blazers wrap up a road trip against the against the Minnesota Timberwolves in Minnesota. Then they're back. They play Wednesday and Friday this week. So, look for more shows in your feed. Tuesday show will recap the Grizzlies game. I'm trying to nail down an interview for this week, but I have not confirmed it yet. But what we do 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. Tell your friends about the program. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.